Hello everybody, when I was 14 I found this, allegedly the unofficial world's longest joke. It's 10,000 words long, all printed on one webpage, basically just a long detailed story with a punchline at the end. I decided I was going to break that record, and armed with an industrial roll of paper, I got to work writing out the joke by hand. My intention was to use the entire roll to be absolutely certain I got the record, but after a few months I completely forgot about it. Then earlier this year, after cleaning my childhood bedroom, I found it again, all rolled up in the tube. So today I'm going to read it to you. Apologies if you hear crinkly pages in the background. It's a very long roll. Started 31st of November 2014. Fred was not a talented man. He failed all of his A-levels and worked as a postman in Cardiff. Although he had no qualifications, he was not a stupid man, he was purely just lazy. He was 34 and had never done anything interesting, but little did Fred know he was actually famous because he was the star of this, the world's longest joke. He also didn't know that soon he would embark on an adventure that would probably involve time travel, pirates, zombies, lemons, and maybe something about aliens. Some may call this scripture a novel, but there are no chapters, paragraphs, or title, and it will definitely end in a punchline. You may be lazy like Fred and skip to the end of this joke to see the punchline, but it might not make sense to those who have not read the full joke. But I have rambled for too long, and we must return to Fred. After his shift, Fred was sitting in an armchair in his small home in Cardiff on a cold winter afternoon. He was reading the comics in the newspaper and drinking a small cup of tea. The TV was on and showing the evening news. That was Fred's usual routine, comics and news. You may be thinking Fred is a sad, sad man. He is not. He enjoys his life. Fred looked at the clock, 3 p.m. Time for the weekly shop, as today was Friday. He put on his coat and grabbed his credit cards and headed for the door. He got into his Hyundai i30 car and drove off to the shop. At the store he bought his usual lasagna, pasta, pizza, rice pudding, cheese, and milk. He paid the man running the store and headed home. He parked his car and walked up the steps to his house. He paused. There was an envelope fastened with sticky tape to his door. The envelope had one word written on it. Fred. Puzzled, Fred pulled down the envelope and walked inside his house. He placed his groceries on the kitchen counter and sat down in the living room. This was by far the strangest thing that had happened to him for quite a while. He slid his finger along the inside of the envelope, slicing it open. He pulled out the letter inside. Dear Fred, it's me, Cousin Oscar. How are you? I hope this letter reaches you well. I'm currently working for the United States government in Area 51, Nevada. Do not tell anyone. We will be forced to kill you and anyone you tell. I am writing to tell you that we need your help on our latest mission. All will be explained on your flight to America. Meet me at Cardiff Airport on Sunday at 2 p.m. Do not fail us. Signed, Oscar. A photo of Oscar holding a sign saying, "Help us, Fred," was attached to the letter. Fred put the letter down. He wasn't doing anything interesting on Sunday. Why not just head down to the airport? A good day out and he could help the US government in one of the most secretive locations on Earth. If it really is true that Cousin Oscar works there. He spent Saturday packing for his possible trip to America. Saturday night came and went, and at 2 p.m. on Sunday, Fred was at Cardiff Airport. He was observing a small fountain when he was tapped on the shoulder. He turned around and looked into the eyes of two men in black suits and sunglasses. "Mr. Fred?" asked one of the men. "Yes," replied Fred. "Come with us." Fred and the two men walked out onto the airstrip and got into a medium-sized private jet. Fred took a seat in the jet, and the two agents sat opposite him. "Mr. Fred," began the agent with black hair, "at Area 51 we have a problem. Last Tuesday, an alien life form crash-landed on Earth on its way to another galaxy. This alien looked exactly like you." "What?" exclaimed Fred. "It was lucky your cousin works for us. He identified that the life form looked like you," said the brown-haired agent. "So what do I have to do?" asked Fred. Interrogation of the alien has resulted in us gaining the knowledge that all aliens on his planet look exactly alike. You must now go to his planet using our top secret teleporter to find out why they all look like you, said Blackhair. Why can't you go? Asked Fred. His mind was a blur. Because his species is extremely shy, they do not talk to other races except their own. They didn't even join the Galactic Federation of Galaxy 4444Y until 2004. They're like Switzerland of space, said Brownhair. Okay, I'll do it. They speak English, right? Asked Fred. No, but we have a translator device for you. It converts their speech to English. Your speech is also translated to their language, said Brownhair. How do you get so many clever devices? Queried Fred. Alien technology. We've known aliens exist since 1993. Only the USA know, not even the United Nations. We're more powerful this way, replied Blackhair. Hang on, let me just sort out this paper, it's getting everywhere. Ah, so when do I teleport to the planet? Said Fred. He was worried that he was asking too many questions. As soon as we land, we'll equip you and send you in, said Brownhair. Several hours later, the private jet landed at Area 51, Nevada, United States, North America, America's Earth, the solar system, the universe. Fred was taken in at the large silo and was pushed into a lift with the two agents. He was equipped with a headset and microphone, and a small watch with more dials on it than Fred had ever seen. Okay, Fred, you press this button to teleport there, said Blackhair, but only in the chamber over there. He pointed to a window to a small purple room. And press this one to return home. Now into the chamber and we can begin. Fred stepped into the purple room. He looked up. The chamber looked like it was miles high. A screen on the wall displayed the words, "Teleport now." Fred pressed the button Blackhair had shown him. Suddenly all he could see were yellow swirls. He felt dizzy. He blinked once and suddenly he was sat down on some strange purple sand. He looked up again. The sky was also purple, but darker than the sand. On the horizon, Fred could see a town with a clock tower, farm and town hall. He marched over to the town to snoop around. True to what the government officials had said, everyone in the town looked exactly like he did. It was disturbing. He was approached by one of the beings that looked similar to him. He held up his hand in the Spock symbol. The alien also held up his hand in the same position. Huh, thought Fred. I always wondered if that would work. Fred continued through the town and approached the town hall. He climbed upon the stone steps and peered through the open doors. He walked forward to the reception desk. May I see the mayor? Asked Fred. Take a ticket and wait over there, said the receptionist. Although the receptionist had the physical features of Fred, they had a female voice. He took a seat in the waiting area with 5 other aliens that looked exactly like Fred. An hour passed. It was now Fred's turn to speak with the mayor. Fred stepped into the office. Ah, hello, said the mayor, a Fred-looking man wearing mayor robes and chain. Hi, this is important news, said Fred. Go on, said the mayor. I come from a far-off planet called Earth. One of your planet's spaceships crash-landed there, and for some unexplained reason your entire species looks like me. I have been sent to find why, explained Fred. I see. That explains your strange clothes, replied the mayor. So do you know why you all look like me? Asked Fred. I myself cannot. What I can tell you is this. In the planet's capital of YQZ14, there is the HQ for the Church of Zyzug. The Church of Zyzug is what image our species was modelled on, but only members of the Church can know. If you can be assimilated into the Church, you can find out for your species, said the mayor. Okay, I will venture to the capital of YQ something Z. I don't know what, I think it's like an alien language. I think that's what I was trying to get at. And to the Church of the Zyzeg to become part of the Church, exclaimed Fred. And so, Fred ventured by bus to the capital of the planet to find out why the aliens looked like him. After a 3-hour journey, Fred arrived. Using a map given by the mayor, Fred navigated the big city to find the main cathedral. He knocked on the big door. A small hatch opened and a Fred-shaped head popped out. Yes? Asked the hooded figure. I wish to join the church, declared Fred. Come in, said the monk who looked like Fred, as did everyone on the planet. Fred stepped into the cathedral. It was decorated with beautiful paintings and glass windows. Fred was led into a room at the back of the church. He was handed a form and filled it in. He was given a robe and quickly donned it before following the monk into another room. Inside was another more official-looking monk, yet still looking exactly like Fred. "Hello, Mr. Pope of the Church of Zizeg," said Fred. "Hello, I hear you want to join our church," said the Pope. "Yes, how can I become a member?" asked Fred. "You must collect 3 things for me from the edges of the galaxy. These things will be greatly beneficial to our church. Only then can you be told the secrets of the universe," answered the Pope. "What are these items?" queried Fred. The Pope pulled a book from a drawer in his desk. He turned to page 394 and pointed to a particular brown object which looked somewhat like a candlestick. "This is the first object, the Gorbon Fire Stick, found only on the fire planet Firon. You bring this and I will tell you the second object to retrieve for me," said the Pope. "Okay, I will get them. Where is the nearest ship to Firon?" said Fred. "In the airport west of here," replied the Pope. Fred said his goodbyes to the Pope and headed to the airport. There were more aliens there which did not look exactly like Fred, presumably from other planets. He located the bay for the ships to Firon, but only after several hours. There was only one ship headed there, a miner ship. He leapt on board and began his trip to Firon. Aboard the ship, he updated the CIA on his current position and ate the cheese sandwiches he had packed for himself. After a 2,000-mile trip, he arrived at Firon. Rather than the neat steel airport he had experienced at YQ-something-Z, the airport at Firon was a wooden and rickety. He stepped onto the platform and his first thought was, "Why is it so hot?" There he looked downwards through the gaps in the planks at the huge vat. Oh, I see. Right. There he looked downwards through the gaps in the planks at the huge vat of molten lava 300 feet below. He stepped inside the passport office, which was based in a cave. It was cool in the cave. The sudden darkness was cold on Fred's skin. They stamped his passport, and he walked down the caves to the local tourist office. "Hello, where can I find the Temple of Gorbon?" asked Fred. The tourist officer shuffled some papers on his desk and produced a small map showing the route from the dockyard to the Temple of Gorbon. Fred navigated the treacherous lava bridges and lakes and after a 3-hour trek arrived at the temple. It was a huge red pyramid with a glowing torch on top. Fred climbed up the steps to the top for 20 minutes before he met a portly alien in a red robe. "Do you have wanting to join church?" asked the alien. "I need a Gorbon fire stick. Do you have one?" asked Fred. Do have, said the alien. Need to readjust the paper again. The alien led Fred into the pyramid into a small blacksmith's. The blacksmith was buzzing with activity and many more portly aliens with red robes making lots of bright red rods with anvils and other blacksmith utensils. Fred was taken to the back of the blacksmith's. On the wall of the smith's was a panel with 12 purple rods attached to the panels. The hooded figure prized one from the panel and gave it to Fred. "Boy, that was easy," said Fred. Fred waved goodbye to the hooded blacksmiths and walked back to the dockyard. Quite a productive day, thought Fred. Fred hopped back onto the rocket ship and decided to get some shut-eye until he returned to the Pope. Fred was having a delightful dream where he was a yogurt pot when he awoke to a jolt. The ship's sirens went off and Fred looked out the porthole. Outside was a rocket ship sporting the skull and crossbones. "Pirates!" he shouted. The doors to his cabin were blown off their hinges and the pirates stormed. Tied up behind them were the captain and first mate of Fred's ship. "Search the scallywag's luggage!" shouted one of the pirates. 2 more pirates entered Fred's cabin and emptied his bag. Luckily the fire rod was in Fred's coat. Suddenly the pirate captain walked in. "All right, scallywags, search the ship," said the captain. "Aye, sir," replied the first mate. Fred moved slowly and unzipped his jacket. He felt around for the fire rod. "What now, sir?" asked one pirate. "Burn the ship," shouted the captain. The other pirates blindly shouted with him. Fred whipped out the Gorbon fire stick. The pirates looked at him. Fred expected the stick to intimidate them or do something to stop the pirate. It did not. Fred was embarrassed. The pirates laughed and began filing out of the ship. The last pirate used his fire sword and started a small flickering fire by the entrance. Fred, the captain and the first mate were trapped on a burning ship in the middle of space. Space was underlined, by the way, so it was very important. Fred panicked, running around the ship, his arms flailing. The other 2 crewmates followed. In their confusion, Fred dropped the Gorbon fire stick and it lit up. He stopped to pick it up, but the stick emitted a purple glow. Coming from the stick, a burst of purple force field extinguishing all the ship's fire. "Wow, that stick saved our lives," said the captain. "Take this." The captain put his hand in his pocket and drew out a small pocket watch with strange pink marks on. "I'm not sure what this is for," said the captain, "but I'm sure you can find a cool use for it." Fred thanked him, and the rest of the journey was uninterrupted. Arriving back at the church of Zizeg, Fred knocked on the Pope's door and entered. He gave the Pope the fire stick. The Pope smiled. "Yes, good," said the Pope. "You have obtained the first item of 3. Then you can join the church and finally find out why everyone on the same planet looks like you." "Excellent," said Fred. "Now for the second object. You must retrieve the Tie of Destiny from Gaga 6, instructed the Pope. Fred nodded and left the church, making his way towards the spaceport. This time he boarded a small immigrant ship headed to Gaga 6. On board the ship, he asked a man in a trilby what the deal with Gaga 6 was. Gaga 6 is the most populated planet in the universe. The population grows by 1 billion people per day. It is also the financial center of the universe, with the Space Federation stock exchange. Just then the ship landed and the doors opened. Many immigrants stepped out and into a huge airport filled to the brim with people. Fred left the airport and into the city. Traffic was backed up everywhere and high-rise flats towered above. In the distance, Fred could see a huge sign displaying the weather, temperature, time, date, and current population. The population was ticking away and then there's a really long number. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2. About 58 times 3 zeros, basically. Fred walked around the busy streets trying to find an information point where he could find the Tie of Destiny, but to no avail. Finally, Fred arrived at a large and very tall concrete building, so big it passed the clouds. A sign read, Gaga Stock Exchange. Fred ventured inside. On the main floor were hundreds of stockbrokers, buying and selling hundreds of shares at various Gaga 6 companies. Fred guessed the other 300 or so floors were exactly the same as this one. He walked over to the information desk. Sat at the desk was an ugly woman of sorts, filing her nails. "Where can I find the Tie of Destiny?" asked Fred. The woman pointed to the map behind her, without looking up, to the top floor of the building. Fred thanked the woman and walked through the busy crowds over to the elevator. He selected floor 420, very funny, and the elevator pinged upwards. 45 minutes later, the elevator was still going and Fred was falling asleep. Finally, the elevator doors opened and Fred arrived at an empty replica of floor 1. Nobody there was dealing shares, and only the workers were doing anything. "Welcome to floor 420, said one worker. "Here you can buy shares in religion." "Cool. 10 shares in Judaism, 5 in Christianity, and 2 in the Church of Zizeg, please," said Fred. "But the real reason I'm here is because I need the Tie of Destiny." "Need not worry," said one worker. "Here it is." The worker pulled out a small blue necktie and passed it to Fred. "Be sure to mail it back to us when you've taken it to the Pope. We get your types here all the time." Fred thanked him, but before he could leave, a loud siren clanged. "Brace yourself!" "Why?" shouted Fred. "Stock market crash!" he yelled, before the ticker tape in the corner began furiously printing thousands of pieces of paper, quickly flooding the room. Within minutes the floor was covered in paper and steadily rising like water. Fred quickly stumbled over the papers towards the elevator. He launched himself into it and pressed the button for the ground floor. He was safe from the tidal wave of paper for 45 minutes. Soon he realized the time was running out and soon he would have to face the calamity of the first floor. Fred noticed the number above him was slowly falling from 99 downwards. Not many floors left. Down and down the elevator plunged. More and more Fred worried what the carnage would look like when he arrived at the ground floor. Finally the elevator ticked down at 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding! The elevator doors took a few seconds to be forced open. In front of Fred was a wall of pure paper. It smelt strongly of ink. Fred began digging handfuls out of the paper, attempting to carve a tunnel through the endless paper. He hadn't got 3 feet when he bumped into another stock market speculator trying to dig his way out. "Hi," said Fred. "Hi," replied the speculator. "Need a hand?" asked Fred. "Yes." "Which way to the exit?" asked Fred. "Behind you," said the speculator. Fred began digging in the direction the speculator had pointed. With the added help, Fred was able to dig his way out of the stock market floor twice as fast. Eventually, after several hours, the pair reached the door of the stock market building. They forced their way out of the skyscraper and onto the street below. News crews and cleanup crews were surrounding the building. Walking down the main steps, he turned to look up at the stock market skyscraper. Bulging from the windows were huge wads of paper trickling down the sides in long rolls. Scraps of paper fell from the window above like snow. The speculator dug some share certificates out of his pockets. "I'm sorry, sir," consoled Fred. "They're worthless now." The speculator tore up the certificates and threw them in the wind. The sun was slowly setting and the neon lights of the monstrous city were slowly flickering on. The speculator sighed. "Don't worry," said Fred. "Once the market is fixed, you can make your money back." "Thank you," replied the speculator. "Won't you come stay at my house? It's getting dark." "Oh no, I can't. I must get back to the spaceport," replied Fred. "But we close the spaceport at night. It reserves fuel," said the speculator. "You must come stay." Fred agreed and began to walk home with the speculator, who revealed his name was Tom. On the way back to Tom's apartment, Fred noticed the roads, still packed with traffic, had strange coloured markings. "What do the markings mean?" asked Fred. "Well, that's easy. You see, the red lines mean parking between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. for lorries, but after that only for taxis. If the green lines, which means no taxi parking between 2 a.m. and 5 p.m. are not in force. The blue lines are for buses only, except if the bus is powered by dark matter. In that case, they have to use the pink lanes between 2 p.m. and 6 a.m. And the orange lines aren't used by lorries after 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. Magenta lines can only be used by people called Jeff on Tuesdays and Fridays between 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. unless the white lines are open between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. Finally, the black lines are only used for small cars on Saturdays and the big ones on Mondays. The marked areas are for free for anyone else. "Wow, forget I asked," replied Fred. "It's not that difficult," said Tom. "For you, yeah, I suppose, but it takes about an hour to learn. Not bad. Whatever." "Hey look, we're at my house," said Tom, pointing at a large apartment complex. Tom stepped up the steps to the porch of the building and stepped inside, ushering Fred in too. The pair were now in a small cubicle about 2 meters by 3 meters. The back wall was decorated with small buttons labelled with numbers. Tom stretched up to the button 33431 and pushed it immediately. The elevator began moving. The elevator had no windows, but Fred could feel the elevator shifting up, down, right, left, forward, left, down, up, back, sideways, and finally up again. The doors pinged open, and in front of Fred was a wooden door. Tom fiddled around in his pockets and pulled out a set of keys, inserting them into the lock, and twisted them clockwise. The door slid open like the doors on Star Trek. Inside was a family of 6 people, a mother and 5 children. "Hello, dearie," said Tom. "I've invited my friend Fred around for the night. Is that okay?" "Of course, honey," replied Tom's wife. Fred sat down at the table next to a gangly youth and a small boy playing with a toy plane. "How was work, honey?" asked Tom's wife. "Oh, there was a market crash. No money today. Tomorrow will be better," replied Tom. "That's terrible," exclaimed Tom's wife. "Oh well, we have enough funds for a week, I suppose. Was this a big crash?" "Not very. Some were quite badly hit." "Any of your companies?" "Yes." "You ought to take a less risky job." "Stock markets are my life, dear." "Oh no, my pasta!" exclaimed Tom's wife, running up to the stove to clear it up. Fred felt a jam in his side. The small boy had collided his plane into Fred. Fred smiled at the boy. The boy smiled back. That's it. That's the end of the story. That's as far as I got. If anyone would like to continue the story, by all means, go ahead, do what you want. I don't know what to do with the roll. It's documented here, so I guess I can just recycle the paper, unless anyone wants to buy it. Email me with an offer, and 1 year after this video goes live, I will send it to whoever sent me the highest bid. That's about it. Thanks for watching.